From News Channel 8, this is News Talk. Here's your host, Bruce DePoit.
Welcome back to News Talk. Parents who believed that a vaccine caused their child's autism suffered a setback when a major study concluded recently that there is no science to support that widespread suspicion. But that hasn't stopped them from reaching out to parents to inform them of the signs that a child might be autistic. This is Autism Awareness Month in the U.S., a perfect time to visit again with Ian Paregol. He is Executive Director of Community Services for Autistic Adults and Children. Welcome back. It is really good to see you.
It's good to be back.
Talk a little bit about was it a feeling of letdown in the autism community when this notion of a vaccine kind of perhaps being the linchpin of what most people seem to agree is a spike in autism cases? Was the community sort of let down, feeling as though something they had invested time and energy in and perhaps thought was a culprit turned out not to be the case?
Well, I think that autism advocates in general are very resilient. I think that there's certainly a core of individuals out there, families that believe that absolutely there's causation. And the CDC and the investigators involved, really haven't found that causation yet. So I think that really the case, I would doubt very seriously that the case is closed.
Do you believe that, was it thimerosal within the vaccine?
Correct. That's the aspect. That contained the mercury. But there's a number of other hard metals that are also in those vaccines. From a perspective that I have a lot of families that we serve, and they are steadfast in their belief that the mercury or some aspect of that vaccine did cause their child to have some type of setback and certainly develop symptoms and signs of autism.
Is the purpose, from your perspective, of continuing to probe why we're seeing an increase in autism, is it, self-evident question, it almost answers itself, so that vaccines can be modified or whatever steps necessary can be taken to get the numbers back as low as possible?
Exactly. If you look at the science and the information provided so far, there really isn't thimerosal in vaccines anymore, yet the incidence still continues to rise. In fact, currently it's listed as 1 in 150 children born today will develop symptoms and have an autism diagnosis, but the CDC is just about ready to announce some new numbers, and that incidence is going to go up. Right now,
what makes you so certain?
Well, there's talk actually in the community,
okay, all right.
that CDC is getting ready to make this announcement at sometime soon, and it's going to go to something like 1 in 133, might go down as low as 1 in 100. And interestingly, Florida, which has a very nice comprehensive study that it's performed, has a ratio of 1 in 97, and that's astonishing.
Wow. Phone lines open as we continue to talk with Ian Paregol of Community Services for Autistic Adults and Children. Our number here, we're going to keep him with us the rest of the way. The number for your questions, comments, bring them forward. The number to call is 703-387-1020. We'll go to the phones as your calls come in. Look forward to them. Again, 387-1020, area code 703. A lot of focus right now on early detection, and I guess that means all parents educating themselves to be able to raise questions with a medical professional early.
Exactly. There's a campaign that was launched called Learn the Signs, and that's really a great starting point. If you have a child that at this time, maybe has not developed speech at 12 months, developed any kind of cooing or babbling, and really is not saying any words at 16 months, and not putting words together at 24. Well, that's one of the indicators, along with eye gaze. If your child is not looking you in the eye, those are really two of the clear red flags that you really need to see your pediatrician, number one, and then hopefully go to a developmental pediatrician.
We have some of them on the screen now. Walk us through them again, if you would.
Oh, great. Well, fails to respond to name is certainly one. If you're calling your child, the child may seem like he's not hearing you at all, so not responsive to his name. Poor eye contact, as I mentioned before, whether it's with a peer or with their parent, typically, appears not to be hearing you. Again, that's the one related to non-responsiveness. These all really go toward language development.
resists holding.
Well, yeah, typically it's been said, in the history, it used to be a child with autism, had, the cold mother syndrome, and, there wasn't a whole lot of holding there. But it's not necessarily resisting holding, but just doesn't really want to be confined or slowed down. I think that's more the key to look for. And the last one, of retreats into own world, well, that's what classic autism is. Auto from self, I mean, that's the whole idea behind autism and the development from Leo Kanner's diagnosis.
So what does early detection, if that's the accepted language, what does that get us?
Well, right now, what the most important thing is it buys you time. When a child has intervention early, maybe from the point of diagnosis, which can be really anywhere from 18 months to 24 months, all the way through age 5, the child has kind of what it's called a plasticity of the brain and can develop different ways to think and different educational strategies. So hopefully at some point down the line, when they really had a nice course of either applied behavior analysis therapy or some type of therapy that's been proven to be successful, they can have a good outcome at the end, and maybe they only need some support in school, or maybe they're mainstreamed into a regular classroom. That's really the goal. But the time to strike is from 18 months to 5 years, and really early intervention is the game changer.
I was watching something on television just the other day, and it was heartbreaking because a parent was saying, and I'm 90% certain this was in the connection to autism, the dad was saying, I hope my child dies before I do, because the level of care that the young man required was significant. And, the parents had obviously dedicated themselves to doing everything that this now young man needed. But the fear, well, it's clear. Who's going to do what I've been doing all this time when I am no longer here? So you end up in this paradox and painful situation of saying, I hope my son dies before I do.
Yeah, it's a really tough struggle for families that have children with autism. I know that we have a number of families, and they're thankful for every day that they have. But it's an interesting dynamic that's presented. Early intervention and active educational strategies when they're little, and then the other side of the fence is, what about the adults? The cost to society, coming through in dollars, not in any other kind of cost, but in true dollars, is going to be monumental in the coming years. The cost to really support an individual with autism through his adult life, find him a supported employment arrangement where he can work like we do at CSAC, is expensive. It's expensive, and there's going to be more and more children coming through that pipeline transitioning into adulthood.
We have about 90 seconds left. I think there's a second page of information or tips. Let's see how far we can get in terms of moving through that.
Okay, starts talking later than others. That's absolutely development of speech and critical. Really, that's your milestone. Loses previously ability to say words. That's a great point. If your child was developing normally and then all of a sudden seems to drop off the ledge, that's really a great sign. Well, not a great sign. It's a bad sign. Right. But it's a sign that you need to go see a doctor immediately. Speaks in an abnormal tone of rhythm. That sometimes children with autism will speak in a very,
without affect or whatever?
Affect at all, right, exactly, thank you. Can't start to keep a conversation going because perhaps they're focused on their agenda and their specific needs and wants, and may repeat words, and that's called echolalia.
We have about a minute left. What are some of the resources? And are there gaps in resources that you'd like to see filled in at the local, state, or federal level?
Well, there's a lot of resources out there because autism is big right now. I mean, that's the fact. At CSAC, we have a great website where you, for example, as a parent that's concerned, can go look on the For Families tab and look up what's called the Modified Checklist for Autism in Toddlers, MCHAT. And you can do this test yourself in a few minutes to see whether or not you should have some concerns. And there's a score sheet associated with that that's also available on the website.
Give out the web address really quick.
It's www.csaac.org.
csaac.org.
Right, and those resources are available there.
All right, Ian Paregol, thank you very much. Good to see you again. We'll take a break. We'll come back with more News Talk right after this.
Thank you very much.